is to be done at 9 o'clock. So I'm going to be talking pretty quickly, but I want to have a time for all of us to kind of go around and introduce themselves and kind of what they're doing here and how they're doing it, and see where we all are. And so, to get us started, I'm going to light our Common Way candle. And for those of you who this is your first time being with or interacting with Common Way, this candle, the barbed wire and the fire brick, the stone in the center, are from Auschwitz. And when I think about what it means to shine our light in the midst of shadow, we have the experience of shadow in our time, in our lifetime. And so what we need to do is really focus on how do we shine our light. I have this so that people can recognize that we've got really important work to do and actually do that work. So that's the idea of the candle. All the way over. Try not to be conspicuous. So what I really would like to actually do a shadow and light experience. However, it takes 2 hours to do that. And I really need to explain to you what we're doing with regard to the process. Let me ask a couple of questions and then get into this part. Let me first, see, this is one reason why I have 2 recording devices going. Let me actually turn on this one. And also let me remind you to turn off devices that make noise in the room. If you don't know how to silence your phone, hand it to me. I guarantee it will be quiet. Nothing like a good dunking in a bucket of water to make sure it's quiet.
Microwave.
I don't have a microwave,
okay.
But that's worth getting one for. Yeah. So number one, welcome. Thank you. And we're going to do a really quick exercise that we have done. No, I'm going to ask a question, then we're going to do our really quick exercise. For those of you who have not taken shadow and light before, how many of you know that you are going to take it? Okay.
What do you mean going to take it?
Well, I mean, this is an introductory session.
Oh, I see, okay.
How many of you know you're going to take it? How many of you, this is just exploring, you're interested but you haven't signed up yet, or you don't have an actual burning intention to sign up?
So which question are you asking?
He knows.
If you already raised your hand, you don't need to know.
Okay.
Right. And since you've already signed, I know you've already signed up, so I know your answer. So one of the things that I do, that I want us to do, is to be really fully present in the room. And a lot of times we come from weird driving situations, or like I had a very interesting client meeting in downtown Portland I had to blast back for, and so we need to like root ourselves in the room. And so, to the extent that you are physically able and comfortable in doing that, we do some exercises that get you in the room, okay? And by doing the exercises together, the idea is to start building our collective field as opposed to each one of us walking in the room as an individual, okay? To the extent that you can, put your feet flat on the floor. And we're just going to do some head rolls to get us started. So you can roll to the right 3 times. And then roll to the left 3 times. And then a really nice nod, all the way down, all the way back 3 times, agreeing with everything I say. Okay. Now, a few shoulder rolls, forward first, 3 times, and backwards. Then alternate, forwards and backwards. Then a really nice back twist, which is going to be part of my moving chair, but all y'all can, you can, I need to hear some cracking going on. Then back the other way. Okay, then finally, left hand grab the bottom of your chair, right hand grab the side of your head, and pull gently, lean a bit, kind of stretch your neck. You feel it stretch for a bit. And then back the other way. Okay. Greg, can you open that window? I'm not getting blood moving.
Looks like me.
I'm not sure this is going to work well because I can't see what's on the screen. You have to hit the wrong button and cartoons show up. So this is a quote from Joseph Rael. Our path is the form by which our fears are challenged and the manner in which we face them. So we are walking together a different path. And the idea of a different path being we will, in the course over 8 weeks, start looking at that which we have not looked at before, looking at it together, looking at where the shadows are in our society and where we're holding them, looking at where the light is in our society and where we're holding it, and being able to shine that in a different way. Okay, so we did our movements. Oh, we didn't do our chants. So this is really very simple. It doesn't matter whether you are religious or not. This is a Buddhist chant, but I think it's really a universal chant. And we're going to do a modification on it. And the Buddhist chant is, may all beings be well, may all beings be secure, may all beings be happy. We say that 3 times, 3 different ways. The first is we focus on ourselves and say, may I be well, may I be secure, may I be happy. We do that 3 times. Then, may you, those of us who are in this room, be well. May you be secure, may you be happy, and try to make eye contact as you're doing that. Do that 3 times. And then, up is there's no other, up is just up, but may all beings be well, and may all beings be secure, and may all beings be happy. Okay? When you're doing you should really do you. Okay? So we'll do this together. May I be well, may I be secure, may I be happy, may I be well, may I be secure,
I be happy. May I be well. May I be secure. May I be happy.
Okay, now. May you be well.
May you be secure. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be secure. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be secure. May you be happy.
Now.
May all beings be well. May all beings be secure. May all beings be happy. May all beings be well. May all beings be secure. May all beings be happy. May all beings be well. May all beings be secure. May all beings be happy.
Okay, thank you. So, is there a chance? You should sit, I'm forgetting that you're back there, you should sit forward. I can't see you though. She's probably making signs behind my back and making. Okay, so now we're going to do our self-introductions as Paula walks out the door. Bye. How are you?
I'm Paula, and I took the class last time. It was really, I really appreciated the class. I still use some of the tools from the class, and I still think about, go back to the thinking from the class, so I would definitely recommend it.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Paula.
Yes, and she has choir practice. Yeah. So, shall we start, let's think, here?
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, you are, I had instructions on what you were supposed to say. Okay, so you're supposed to say whether or not you are.
I thought you were trying to remember my name.
Oh, no, this is my boss. So, no, so you're supposed to say whether or not you are a veteran of the class or whether you're taking it now. And if you are a veteran, what's one of the things that you remember about it? And if you're taking it now, if you're going to be taking it starting on the 2nd of October, what do you feel drawing you to this? So.
I'm Charlene, and I did take the class, and there were several things that really impressed me. One, this chant, I actually do this quite often. And then also how deep Sharif helps folks to go to really look at what's going on, with you individually, but more importantly, what's going on with our world, what's going on around us, really trying to make sense of that and tapping into the collective energy to help create something better.
Thank you.
I'm Susan, and I'll be new to the program. And the only thing that would call me would be my heart, and would be truly my desire for all beings to be well, to be secure, and to be happy, and to show up, dig deep, find out where I'm holding or not releasing or whatever it may be, so that I can be of the best service that I possibly can be.
I'm CJ. I'm fairly certain I'll be taking the class, and I being called to, what can I do to change or to have an effect on the things that we see out there?
I'm Evan. CJ invited me to come tonight. It's my first time coming, and I just wanted to come to kind of experience what this was, because it was very interesting to me, and I always wanted to keep an open mind, and I'm very interested in seeing what I can do to be a positive influence and help all beings be well.
Sylvia, and I've done some previous work, actually a number of years ago, and totally loved the work and really saw the evidence of what I needed to do, working with myself and taking it out into the world. Typically, in the past, I've gone down to McLaren on tonight, so that may or may not be shifting, and I will know before the next time, so I didn't raise my hand until I know whether I can attend. But even if I can't attend, I wanted to know more about it so that I could be a better spokesperson in communicating to others who might be interested.
I'm Greg, and I am following this course again, walking this path again. The first time Sharif said, "It's perfect. I'm going to find people who are accustomed to working on their own spiritual growth and development and encourage them and teach them to spread that same energy out in the world for the betterment of the planet." I said, that I want to do this, and so I feel like I am a pioneer. I hope to look back one day and be one of the very few people who can say I was the first.
I'm Myrna, and I've signed up for the class, and I really had a mentality that I was poor this season, so I wasn't going to sign up for any classes. And then something you must have said was...
Like, give me your money?
Something drew me to this class, and I'm a very spiritual person, and I do believe in energy, and I do study all kinds of faiths, especially Buddha and New Thought. And so I have no doubts that I will be enlightened.
I'm Jeannie, and I took the class before, and it really helped to ground and center me. I missed some of it though, so I'm going to take it again.
I'm Kevin, attorney also. I think, as you said, the chant has been really powerful, but I think too is the self-examination, and it's a constant thing. And so when I'm dissatisfied with the world around me, I just have to keep working on my stuff. And I'm here to support Sharif and what he needs and what he wants, and be able to do, like you said, be able to take it out and have people ask me questions. You know, what did you get out of it? What was it valuable? And then of course I have my own work still to do. It's a progression. And I would just add this caveat is that I've been in relationship. I want to say I've had the privilege of, I've been in a relationship with Sharif for many years. I lost when we did the first circles, the first module group. But I think he's reached, not the end level, but he's reached a level that really resonates. And it's just going one step farther. It's that next step, the active step that I'm working on.
Someone's got that, so
It's okay, this is fine.
I'm Barbara, and I was blessed to be able to participate in the last Shadow and Light group, and what I found extremely powerful, I think Sharif, you talked this past week when you talked about how you've been watching and being a part of the society, and here we are, how many years past civil rights, and we still are facing sort of the same things we've been facing. And I found that this group and the work that Sharif is doing is allowing us to have the conversations that are about what's underneath things and what's within us that's unconscious, whether we absorb that in imprinting DNA, whether we absorb that in imprinting from our family, whether we absorbed it in our school or our society. So it's very powerful, the conversations and the holy circle of sharing. I mean, Sharif has an amazing way of presenting things that are getting below just the left brain, and so it's working with our right brain, left brain, subconscious, unconscious. And I found that those conversations were some of the most meaningful that I've had in my life. And I feel that that itself is helping to shift the consciousness of the collective. So it's rich. I have a class I'm working in on Tuesdays, but I would like to come when I have the space to join, so if I can join, if that's okay with the collective, I feel like I will be, even though I won't be woven in at the beginning, I feel like I could join in and be a part of it, just enter into the sacredness of that, because it is asking us to be honest and with ourselves and with each other. So I understand there's a sacredness about that, but I feel like I would enter into it honoring that.
I'm Nancy, and this is my first time, and I have signed up for the class, and I am looking forward to finding all those dark places that I thought I didn't have. And many have been coming up recently, and I found myself getting upset with different occurrences that have been happening, and I just need to find a way to move through that and be the light for other people on it too.
No, I intend to take this class very attentively on behalf of helping Sharif seed this throughout the entire New Thought movement. I've been a New Thought minister for 30 years, and I was only a week or so into the ministry studies at the School of Ministry, and I realized that there was nothing in New Thought that was like what I came out of the Methodist tradition, what the Methodists call social gospel. It was immediately evident to me that New Thought is entirely individualistic and has no social dimension. And so I figured perhaps I'm here on behalf of New Thought, gaining a social dimension. At the very first gathering of what became the International New Thought movement back in 1898, someone spoke on the social implications of New Thought. The last time anybody spoke on that subject since, with the exception of a few years ago when I addressed the internet and used the same subject. New Thought is about change your thinking, change your life. If we're going to have a social consciousness, we have to shift our energy to change our life. And this is all about shifting energy, not about changing our thinking in consequence of shifting our energy. But the thinking is incidental to having a real shift in energy, and this is an energy shifting enterprise.
I'm Liana. I am taking the course now for the first time. And I kind of anticipate, I'm kind of trepidation, looking forward to it. I anticipate a lot of discomfort because it addresses some of those deep, dark things that, you know, I like to claim I'm fair-minded or open-mindedness, and I have trip-ups, and then this is the sort of thing, you know, this kind of classes help me address that sort of thing, and so that's what I'm here for, is because I do want, you know, I like the positive, you know, I'm kind of unhappy with the world I live in. I wish everybody were happier, and this is a way to kind of address that. How do I do it? That's my part in it.
We've been around.
Hello everyone. I'm here.
It's like, whoa, what up? It's like in the vortex.
No, right, okay, so your name?
Chat. My name is Sir Sayaville. I go by SV, so it's easier to say and remember. And I'm here to check out the class. Stephanie invited me to learn all about positive vibes and thinking positive to have positive results. So I'm a creative entrepreneur and mixed media artist. So perhaps this can help me be the best me. So, nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet
So
you.
y'all should have switched seats, okay, so, right, go ahead.
I'm Stephanie Nelson, and I've been off and on with the Spiritual Center for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. And I've actually heard you speak on Sunday, and you know, I just recently finished a workshop called Integrate, and it had a lot to do with your shadow and your light side, and it was really powerful for me. And it was awesome because I got to, you know, there was like a day dedicated to your mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual self, and you got to explore masculinity and femininity and your thought processes and the range of emotion from being very angry and how that can bring out passion, and it was just really cool. So I think that the trigger word for you, like you bringing that up, was kind of like interesting, but the most powerful thing to me was you speaking about people, about bringing action, like it's time to step up. So I'm hoping this has something to do with that. If it doesn't, then maybe this is the right forum for me, because I really am a big believer in, I've been in the financial system, I've been in the healthcare system, I've dealt with regulatory systems, I've seen the lobbying, and I believe in order to make the shift that we need to make, you gotta go outside of all of those systems. And there's 3 systems that are working to change, and that's Copiosis, Venus, and there's another one, Zyticus, which is basically an idea of getting back to the idea of the resources of the earth are inherently ours. We don't have to go make money. That was something we just made up to, you know, to get these resources. What we should be spending our freaking time doing is delegating, taking care of them, being responsible for them, and delegating them, and being imaginative of how we move them out into the world. So that's what I want to create, that's what I'm envisioning, that's what I'm already a part of, and I don't know if that's what you're thinking, but that's what I'm thinking. So that's what I'm thinking.
Okay, and if I'm not thinking that, I can rent you a room and you can. This has been, as usual, we get the right people in the room, there's the right energy, the right juice, and like I said, I really wish we could just dive in, but I really want to give you an overview of where this is, so that next Thursday, or the following Monday or Tuesday, depending on which day you select, we will dive right in. For those who are signed up and are not able to come today, we're going to put at least the audio, if not the video of this, up on the web so that the people can actually see that. I'm not sure I'm going to do the PowerPoint part of it, because then I have to turn around and be not cognizant of the room, but since it just advanced itself, I guess I'm doing the PowerPoint part of it. So the question is of focus and vision. What is our focus and what is our vision? And that is a world that works for all beings. It just happens to be the title of my book, okay, but I don't know how that coincidence happened. But it's, and I stress for us, and I say this every time we start, it's not you want to make the world a better place. That is a non-specific goal, which means it's not a goal. You can do anything you want to do. Pick up, you know, a piece of trash on the street. I made the world a better place. I'm going to go watch TV now. And that's not what we're talking about. We will know when the world works for all beings, and we'll know when we're even getting close to it. Okay? Our primary value is the value of inclusivity. Inclusivity is not inclusiveness. It's not getting certain socially protected classes better rights. This is for all beings, for all of us to recognize that we are one. So for all of us to recognize our rights. But more important than that, for all of us to recognize our responsibilities, that all of us have responsibilities to ourselves, to each other, and to the entire planet. And then there are the 3 Ds, direction, devotion, and discipline. Our direction is a world for all beings. Our devotion is having a transcendent awareness, an awareness that goes beyond what we would call religion, okay? It doesn't matter if you are religious or not. It doesn't matter whether you believe that there is a God or not. It is very important that you realize that there is something that goes beyond your senses. There's something that goes beyond your touch, something that goes beyond your sight, something that goes beyond your taste. If you don't believe that, if you believe like Richard Dawkins that there's only what you can sense, save yourself the rest of the hour and a half. Leave now, okay? You're not going to be happy, okay? And you'll probably wind up annoying me.
Because we know you're going to annoy them.
Yeah, right. This pig will sing. You're right. And for those of you who weren't there on Sunday, that's just too bad. Okay, so what's been the impetus for creating this, and I'll talk about this very quickly. One part was the various shootings that have been going on in our world. You know, violence touched us here in Portland with the mall shooting at Clackamas Town Center, the school shooting at, I forget, Reynolds, yes. And then Newtown, which was this, I mean, like, that I don't want to say we got off lucky, but we got off lucky, you know. I mean, the shootings were not nearly as horrific as they could have been. And so what are we going to do to get below the issues as opposed to dealing with the surface issues of let's do more gun control and then have people hacking each other to death with machetes and then try to do machete control. The other thing was, and this is I went to a talk on racism. How many of you were there Sunday? Okay, I'll say this really quick. So you heard it already. I went to a talk on racism a few years ago and realized the conversation was the same conversation we've been having for the last 40 years. And we need to start doing something about it as opposed to dealing with the presenting symptoms of you said a certain thing, you looked at me the wrong way, you did da-da-da. It's like, let's get below all that and get that energy out of our systems, to get this energy out of our collective consciousness as a society. And the reason I was thinking about that is that came up in my meeting today with my client saying, what about racism? And I said, we have to get below that. And the really cool thing was everybody in the room, their heads started nodding. It's like, yeah, it's at some point in time, we're really going to have to nip this thing in the bud as opposed to just continuing to like, this is kind of like the liberal touchstone, you know, we have to talk about racism because we have to talk about racism. Then finally, I was doing some work a couple of years ago with Dignity Village. On the one hand, Dignity Village is this really cool alternative to people sleeping on the streets. On the other hand, it's like, why do they get to create their own society and we don't get to do that? And so I realized that there is something very that Dignity Village has the potential of being transformative, but without values, without discipline, without direction, and without devotion. So we need to create a society that has the 3 Ds in it. Okay. So what we're going to do, drilling down into our historical, cultural, psychological, and spiritual roots. Just taking one of the 4 main shadows that we'll be dealing with. our issues regarding race and otherness didn't start in 1965. It didn't start with the civil rights activities. It didn't start with the end of slavery. It didn't start with the beginning of slavery, okay? All of these things are symptomatic of something that's really lying right there below the surface. It's really yucky. We don't want to look at it, so you keep acting like it's not there. And when something comes up and shows symptoms of it, we kind of push it to the side. And our goal is to not push it to the side, to go in there and remove the blockage so that we can actually shine light and have that situation be something that's now in our past. So we're working with problems at their root, not at the presenting symptoms. This is not a head-centered approach. The antidote to the shadow is ecstasy. And I get to read you a quote from, I guess, the book after my books, or my favorite book. And this is the book that launched my last year around the world journey, A Story Waiting to Pierce You. I would love to talk to you about it, but we don't have time tonight. But here's the quote that launched my journey. Cultures are created and destroyed in ecstasy, and for every moment in between, there's nothing that keeps a world alive aside from the breath of ecstatics. People in general sincerely believe that they know what life and the past and present are, although they know nothing. The news, the huge archives, the carefully written books are all about nothing. They're not even about the shadows of reality or about moving chairs on the decks of a ship that could soon go down. They are absolutely nothing. The whole of existence is an elaborate illusion to make everyone believe that something can be done here, even though nothing is ever done. We have the strange idea in the West that civilizations just happen, that they come into existence as a hit or miss affair, and then we bumble along, creating and inventing and making it better. But this is not how things are done at all. Civilizations never just happen. They are brought into existence quite consciously, with unbelievable compassion and determination from another world. I'm going to say that one again. Civilizations never just happen. They are brought into existence quite consciously, with unbelievable compassion and determination from another world. Then the job of people experienced in ecstasy is to prepare the soil for them, carefully sow and plant them, care for them, watch them grow. He goes on to say that our society started with and has ecstatic roots, that our society is rooted in the sacred, and we've forgotten the roots. For hundreds of years, and as he's saying in this book, for thousands of years, we've been just acting like, oh, we're making it up as we're going along, and we're not. We're here at the turning of the wheel. The wheel is about to turn, and the really cool thing is that we get to be a part of that process. And if I keep going like that, I'm going to never get through. So what we're talking about is a transcendent inclusivity, a recognition that not only all humans are one, but all beings are one. All of life is one. And to be able to see that in such a way and to act on that in such a way that it guides our political decisions, it guides our economic decisions, it guides our social decisions. So we're trying not to get away from judgment, trying not to judge. How many of you see the movements of our time, and the movements are always pointing the finger at somebody else? The movements are never saying, I am responsible here. And that responsibility gives me power to make a change. We're not pointing fingers. If I see any fingers pointing, we'll encourage you not to do that. Okay. So, and this is the dojo. This is the practice room. I call this praxis house. Praxis is a nice fancy Latin word for practice. We can talk about shit all we want to, you know, but let's actually live our lives for the 2 hours that we come together, and maybe a lot more than that after we leave. Let's live our lives in such a way that we are practicing what we're preaching. We're practicing what the truths that we know are existent for us. Any questions or comments about any of that before I go on to talk about the 4 themes that we will be covering? Okay. So, 4 themes, and a little nice yellow box too. So, on one night we will be dealing with a shadow, one of the 4 shadows, and then the next evening we'll be dealing with the corresponding light, so that these will be balanced. These are not necessarily, this is not necessarily the order of presentation, the order that we'll deal with things. I won't know that order until maybe the last minute, but I need to see who's in the class. So it may be in this order and it may not be. We need to move beyond the shadow of violence and fear. And we know how the shadow of violence and fear manifests itself. The shootings that we were just talking about. The fact that violent video games, etc., is a multi-billion-dollar industry. That we can see all these things and we can change it by removing the blockage that creates the shadows. The second one is moving beyond the shadow of racism, sexism, and other aspects of separation. The third one is moving beyond the shadow of poverty, greed, and hoarding. And I put hoarding in there in that you've heard people talk about people being greedy, that so-and-so is greedy, Donald Trump is greedy, okay? But it's really not about greed. For the overwhelming majority of people that I know, they are afraid. They are afraid of lack. They are afraid that I won't have enough. And so people who can be sitting on multi-million-dollar bank accounts, thinking of half a dozen people I know right now, sitting on multi-million-dollar bank accounts, and they're still afraid, okay? And so that fear drives us as much as someone who's sleeping on the streets right now. And then moving beyond the shadow of depression, despair, and suicide. Now, I don't know the order of the other 3, but I know that one will be our last one. Okay, there's something about the symmetry of that verse. And then we get to the corresponding lights, the lights that we can shine. One is the light of peace and security, what I call Pax Humana. And the reason I tend not to use the word peace is that we tend to think that peace, it means being nice. Peace means, oh, I love everybody. And that's not the case. That people who do that may be harboring a lot of ill will in their hearts. And it's not about liking everybody. We don't have to like people. We may see someone as being opposed to us on various issues, etc., but we still have to recognize that that person that's opposing us is our brother or our sister. Then the light, the moving beyond the light of racism, the shadow of racism and sexism, into the light of inclusive community, to recognize that our community doesn't have a boundary. Okay, so it doesn't have a limit that we've built into it. And I tend to think, I spent a lot of time at Pete's Coffee House in Portland, because that's where I drink my tea. And I kind of think about the fact that they don't restrict who comes in their door. And you can come in, sit down, open up your computer, work for 2 hours and not buy a damn thing. And I've actually seen the workers come over and say, "Would you like a glass of water?" You know, like you know, it's you're here. Unlike almost any other establishment I know, somebody walks in and says, "I want to use the bathroom." I say, "It's right over there, you don't need a key." And what that does is it builds community. And it'd be really interesting to kind of have our world operate like that 24/7, 365. Instead of the shadow of poverty, greed, and hoarding, we can have the light of true abundance and enoughness. And we'll talk about the concept of enoughness, of recognizing when you're full and stopping. What a concept. I'll tell you a quick story. Make sure I'm on time here. Okay, forget about time.
Bad point. Hey, you made an hour and 45.
Yeah, right.
45 minutes.
Yeah. So, I was somewhere, I was at a pizza restaurant, and in some city, and this place was hopping. It was really jumping. It was really great food, great atmosphere, a family concern. This guy was going, so the owner was going around to all the tables, "How you doing?" etc. So he comes over to my table, and I said, "This is it's got great food, great atmosphere." I said, "You could open up several of these. You could have your own chain." And he gets this really thoughtful look on his face, and he says, the whole family is working here, and he says, "We have a really nice house." He says, "I support the Little League, and I support the Chamber of Commerce, and we have a comfortable life. I figured I'd leave the water in the well for the next guy." Now, he had enough. He knew what enough felt like. He knew he had a grasp of what enough felt like in his life, and he didn't have to pursue, let's get the second one, let's franchise, let's have them in all 50 states, let's go international, etc. And I just thought that was a really nice statement of enoughness. And then, moving beyond depression, despair, and suicide into the light of deep fulfillment. And I think about the fact that our founders founded our society on life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Or we could say the pursuit of satisfaction, or the pursuit of fulfillment. And those are nice words, those are nice values, and then we start doing exactly the opposite when our practical values, the values that we practice, are outside of that framework. Okay. Questions, comments, thoughts about this part here, and then we will actually take a break and come back, and I'm going to ask you some questions. Actually, I have answers to them already.
Oh, trick question.
Right, yeah, trick questions. I have several trick questions.
And we've been warned.
Yes, right. Yeah, there is a correct answer. And you don't want to look bad either. So questions, comments, thoughts? Yes.
Can you give me a little taste of like when you're, for example, moving beyond the shadow of violence and fear, like what would that look like in your mind? Like just a little, so I can kind of think of where your mind is when what you're gonna teach me.
I'm not sure I understand your question. Are you saying what does the society look like that has moved beyond violence and fear? Or are you saying, do I have a model for a society that I'm trying to give to you? Or are you saying, there's some, like, what does the program look like when we get to violence and fear?
Well, what I hear you saying, when I hear you speaking and stuff on Sunday, is like getting down to the root is like this key thing. So I guess I'm curious, what do you see as the root thing that you're saying that we need to get down to for that? Because, and there's a reason I'm asking it, and I'll just let you.
This may get into the questions that we have after break. And so, let me ask a couple of those questions and then come back to this. Okay. If I've got time, I'm reserving toward the end to like look at the kind of the mechanics of how you take all this. But I think those are very good questions, and I don't want to but if nobody needs a break, we can just kind of keep rolling here too. But we may need to take like maybe 5 or 10 minutes just to absorb what we've done so far.
Observe the food in the next room?
Huh? right, yeah, absorb the food in the next room. So, questions, thoughts, issues, break.
And so, I had a couple of really good conversations, and I've actually thought before about having a meeting that just consists of the break. You're gonna kind of, okay, we're gonna take a break, and that's it. So we'll see where you go. So what I want to do is ask us some questions. One of the, I'm sorry, there was one more piece of that. Imagine what America would be like if we rid ourselves of these major shadows, if we develop these major lights. Just think about, I mean, it may actually be impossible or difficult for us to think about it in the context of what we have had. And I could say more, and I'm not. No, they're watching, this is called discipline. Before I get to the questions, when we talk about releasing the shadow, we're going to do a modification of Michelle Small Wright's battle energy release process. Michelle Small Wright wrote a book called Behaving as If the God in All Life Mattered. I recommend the book. And if you think about getting it, I'll have to instruct you how to read it.
Too late.
Yeah, well.
What was the title again?
Behaving as if the God in all life mattered. And she had a process, she has a research garden in Virginia called Paralantra. And she found when she was going around to the various Virginia and then Southern Civil War battlefields that the energy was being held the energy of the Civil War was still being held in these spaces. And she went in as a representative of humanity, shifted the energy, okay? And she taught a bunch of us how to shift this energy. And I've worked at shifting the energy, and you can actually feel it change, and then you can actually see tangible evidence that this energy has changed. What we can do, and what our goal is to get a critical mass of people to actually work on shifting that energy. Focusing our power, focusing at the source, not the surface, not working at psychology, not working at behavior modification stuff, but really going into the soul of ourselves and the soul of our society. Not working at the level of the individual, although I think all the veterans will say that they got a lot out of this as individuals, but the goal is not to work as an individual, but to work for the collective good. And going deep, the form that we see, somebody so distraught, that they strap explosives to their body, pick up a gun, walk into a school and shoot children. That person is so disturbed, that the disturbance happens at such a deep level that just giving that person counseling is not going to change that. So we work at understanding the shadow. So we do a little bit of talking about the shadow, but we don't stay in that talk mode. Establishing a sacred setting and ceremony, acknowledging the nature and essence of the shadow. We open to it using a process that we call visual meditations. And that's, we will sit together, we will meditate together, but we will meditate with our eyes open while we are looking at images, first of the shadow, and look at what that is doing in our hearts, keeping it out of our head, just watching how it's affecting us, and constantly holding the energy of may all beings be well, may all beings be secure, may all beings be happy, and letting that change for ourselves and letting that change for us as a group. Doing a process of acknowledgement, intention, and release of the shadow. A lot of times we take actions and we have no intention that things change. It sounds crazy and absurd, but look at what just happened this past Sunday when you had over 250,000 people lined up in New York City to address the issue of climate change with no agenda to make a change. Just, I think it should change. Okay, now go home. So now, I've gotten half a dozen emails that say, okay, well, after the big demonstration, what happens? Well, you should never have to ask that question. You should know what happens. You keep acting until this thing happens. But if you have no goal, that's too bad. Okay, so, and then we have a closing or a focusing of the sacred ceremony. Then we do that same process for embracing the light, understanding the light, establishing a sacred setting and ceremony. And again, by sacred, I don't mean religious. I don't mean that I've got this religion of Sharifism that I'm pushing. Okay, and that was our break. So we had the break. Okay, so there's my question. What is the shadow? And let's have people who did not take the program before start answering the question. This is the audience participation part. Yes.
It's the negative sense of awkwardness, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Like you were saying, is right there. But kind of just shut away.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking that's what I just heard today.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, it's shadows are negative. Okay, so we're not saying the flowers growing in the spring. We're going to do something about that. We're going to dig that out at the root. No, we can leave those.
Is the shadow negative though, or is it the perception of the shadow that's negative?
You tell me. Doesn't anybody know who she is? Does she always do this?
She thinks she's doing her job.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah. So what do you think?
Well, when I think of, just of my own stuff recently that I've looked at, the way it was presented to me, it's the kind of the stuff that I don't want to accept about myself. And when I look at why I don't want to accept it, it's not necessarily that when I really think about it, that it's bad. It's what I've been taught to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes me think on a grander scale that it's, the shadow really, it's the fear I have around the things I think are bad about myself or are not okay. But it's a perception I have. It's not necessarily the truth. Because I've started to play with them, I've started to experiment with them, and I realize, I can't, if I don't get angry, which I perceive as being bad, then I can't be passionate about things that I'm really excited about. So I guess for me it's a process of learning.
And as you're saying, not being angry because you've been taught that being angry is bad?
Well, my perception, for whatever reason, my experiences in life, I didn't want to, for me, I perceive it as being out of control.
Mhm.
You know, I also don't
Okay.
want to be needy and weak,
Okay,
but you know what I
right.
mean? There's a lot of things I don't want to be.
Right.
But, you know, but the perception I have that I have made up in my mind is that that's out of control.
Right.
And I don't want to be out of control, because if I'm out of control, that's bad.
Right.
You know, so it's, but I think it's really just the perception. So, and I think a lot of times when you look at society and the things that, you know, you talk about the root of it, it's like, it's the things we don't want to look at, that we don't want to say, you know, I'm really fucking scared about this.
Mhm.
You know, this is scary.
Mhm.
You know, I just said a cuss word, sorry, it's a spiritual thing, but.
Out.
Oh,
I would never fucking do a thing like that. That's just, what is this?
So,
Okay,
so that's what I'm thinking.
thank you. Other thoughts?
Well, I'll say that for me, the shadow is what I put in place to block my own mind, or to modulate it in some way.
Okay, so when you say you put it in place, are you putting it in place consciously, or is it something that you wound up with that you know you put in place?
Both. I'd
Okay.
say, and it wouldn't be facetious for me to say yes to that,
Mhm.
because for me, there are at least two directions that the answer to that question comes from. One is from the all that I am, that we all are. I put that in place.
Okay.
From my perspective, purposefully, that serves me, that serves my life, that serves my awakening, and that I can come and push against as many times as I want to push against it, kind of like a cosmic isometric or something, you know, for the way that I work myself in my life. And so that's one of the ways that I would say that I put it there. And when that is removed or released in this kind of process, then that's when it's like this huge, amazing release and flow of energy. And that's my experience, so that's my perspective.
Okay. Let's get a couple more comments, and the veterans may have something they want to share. Yes.
In my experience, a shadow is whatever I resist the appearance of. Because shadows are only an appearance. So my shadow is whatever I'm resisting the appearance of. I either repress its appearance or don't allow it. And it can include a lot of good stuff that I'm not ready to look at. It's not just bad stuff. It's back to Nelson Mandela's, when most fear is our greatness. Our greatness, for many of us, is part of a shadow. So it's what we don't allow the appearance of.
Yes. But this kind of gets back to what Stephanie was saying. Why wouldn't I allow the appearance of something that is not a negative? Why wouldn't I allow the appearance of my greatness? And you don't, somebody else may have a response to that.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
And
So-
Mandela said, yeah, we fear our greatness.
And so the fear turns that thing into a shadow.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, thoughts? Yes.
I was going to say, it's almost like the curriculum is what's yet to be looked at, learned, because there's generally, for me anyway, lessons there.
Yes, and from the work that Commonwealth does, we call that the story. Okay, and whether you call it curriculum, story, whatever, but it's what we've been told, what we're telling ourselves, what others have told us and we have accepted, and all those things may impinge upon and create for us shadows. Was that a hand up, or did you cheat?
Well, you were still talking.
Okay, wait.
You talk.
Okay, If this is an auction, you'd have bought it. Okay, so let's look at what happened in some of our earlier sessions. People said the shadow is what we fear. That the shadow may be fear itself. Shadows are produced when something is blocking the light. Okay, so the question is, where is your light and what is it that's actually blocking? Okay, so how do shadows get transmitted? How do they get handed down? That's the next question.
Are they always handed down? Can you kind of end up creating your own?
Yes.
Or both? No.
Yeah. Yeah. So self-creation. Okay. What else?
Culturally?
Culture. Your culture says this is the way we do it. Okay.
Environment.
Your environment. Somebody said parents. Parents are perfect in every way.
Schools.
Schooling.
Schools.
Hmm?
Schools.
Yes,
Oh,
your
right,
school.
right,
Yeah,
right,
yeah. Well, school is a manifestation of your culture. Okay, and then so if your culture is holding shadow, then you're going to be taught that. Anything else? What else?
Things that people say that you take on and don't let go of.
Yeah. Grasping stories. Okay. Yeah. So. Yep. What else?
By staying in the shadow? Because you never...
Oh yes, yeah. You think that you think the shadow is your reality? Yeah. Yeah.
You don't think to move past that person that's casting this huge shadow, your parents, whoever it could be in life.
Yeah. And then on an energy level, once we are believing something, once we buy the story, our energy creates the vortex that starts pulling to us everything that is going to justify that story. Everything that's going to agree with that story. So then it becomes the self-fulfilling prophecy. And so let's take a look at me dropping my papers on the floor. That's right. Yeah, exactly.
There it is.
And so here's what others have said. It comes from our culture and our memes. Does everybody know what memes are? Kind of. That's good enough, right? that's good enough. Okay.
Can I give a one-sentence definition?
Yeah. Well, wait. We'll see if you get this in one sentence. Okay.
Okay. A meme is a unit of culture.
Okay. Now you understand it perfectly, right?
Someone give me an example, but I can't remember what it was.
Well, one definition of a meme is a thought form that travels from mind to mind as contagiously as genes, as their chromosomes go from gene to gene. It's the mental equivalent of genes.
Okay. You understand it fully now. Okay. Okay, got it.
The hula hoop is a great example of a meme.
I like the way you
Okay, right. And that's one of the shadows we will dispel. It's only a part of your culture, but okay. So, and I can say a lot more about that, but I won't. Okay. Your shadows can travel from your DNA. You can inherit your background, your culture, etc., which is really weird. I have stories about that. Coming from, as you said, your education and your training, from your personal experiences, from secondary information, somebody telling you that they had an experience. Okay. One quick story. I was working, doing some work out in Hood River, and an Anglo, a white guy that lived in town, said that years ago he was finding work for his son, who was like 15 years old, to work on a farm. And he went to find, he had a person he thought was his friend, who's a Japanese farmer, and the guy took his son on, and for half a day, just completely berated his son, just like called him all sorts of names. And finally, he was up on the farmer was up on a ladder, and he kicked a bucket of paint onto his son's head. So his son comes home covered in paint, okay? And the guy said, you know, told his son to get cleaned up, and I'm gonna go find you somewhere, somewhere else to work. He said he found him another farm, and he made sure he found him a farm with a Japanese farmer, so that he could then understand. His story was that that farmer was crazy, not that Japanese are crazy. Okay, this is it's how you shape the story. I guess I forgot to block the screen, so now you'll know what I have to say about this. Okay, so is fear necessary? Okay, well, some fears are necessary for living in the world. A snarling animal not on a leash comes at you, you're going to do something about it. The shadow fears, though, are the ones that are holding us back. And so when you minimize the shadow, you're minimizing fear. And each shadow has a corresponding light. You can't get to the light until you remove the blockage that creates the shadow. Anybody else have anything to say about that? Better not.
No.
Okay, right. What do you mean by this, though? And
about this stuff, that's the question.
that's right. So, what is the effect of the shadow? We're going to look at it both on personal and societal levels. Let's focus on the personal first. When you see a shadow, or you see someone dealing with with shadows, or you see us collectively as a society embracing shadows, what's the effect? What does it do to us personally? Stagnation. Paralyzing.
Fear.
Well, how does it manifest?
Being fearful. Being fearful.
Fearful, okay.
Discouragement.
Okay.
Apathetic.
Okay.
Institutionalized.
Yeah, that's very important on a number of levels. People are like, I go and I work inside this institution so that I don't have to encounter human beings on a real level. In communities like Lake Oswego, a lot of police calls come because people are afraid to talk to their neighbors. Neighbor has the music too loud. You go knock on the door. Can you turn your music down a little? No, you call 911. You have the cops go over there and say one of your neighbors, so that because we're afraid to encounter the other, which is a major shadow. What else? What else happens on a personal level? Okay, I'm ready to reveal. The shadow keeps us small. It means that we get to walk through our very small, narrow lives and get to walk through a very narrow view of reality, but we're not connecting to the larger whole. The shadow keeps us from perceiving reality because we're seeing the shadow. And then we have to start trying to make our lives conform to this fiction that we've seen. The shadow in some ways magnifies our fears. It makes things look more fearful. Okay? And I'm resisting my stories. And as Reverend Noel said, it keeps us from our greatness. It keeps us from being great people. Some other folks have said the shadow is destructive. It leads to, and you said inaction, stagnation, paralysis, etc. Disempowerment. So I find it interesting that America and Americans talk about being number one and saying that this is such a powerful country, when people in here are so powerless. They don't recognize, this is somebody used the term sheeple, just kind of go along with the program, do whatever you're told, or complain about it and then go along with the program, and then depression and numbing as a personal effect of the shadow. Okay, so what are the effects of the shadow on a societal level?
What are the same things?
Well, a lot of the same things.
Yeah.
You're talking like
Are you-
actual, like a war, or are you using examples?
No, war could be an effect of the shadow. I don't know anything about those people, so instead of dialing 911 and calling the police to talk to my neighbors, I send the Army or the Marines over to talk to my neighbors.
Okay.
With instructions to kill them. Anything else?
Prescriptions,
Excuse me?
prescription drugs or something?
Oh, yeah, look, yeah, you think? You think? Yeah. So this is the other side of denial of depression and numbing, is to kind of get centered on that. What else? Trying to think of a pithy way to say it, but I think the idea that the people in control, instead of looking at, for example, I need to educate children, people start with, I need to follow a budget. And so the societal effect is that instead of looking at the job to be done and planning to do it, we look at some other constraint. Right. And try to exercise more and more control over people, over nature, etc., and recognize that we can't do it, and then we try to do more. So yeah.
I would just say, a word I think, manifest destiny, in the sense that I guess we know better, or we're gonna do it anyway. So necessarily not war, but we're gonna go over and we're gonna take this leader out. We've decided, for whatever reason, this is in our shadow's best interest, so.
Or support this leader, support somebody who should not be supported. Yeah.
I think one of the things that just came to me, that is a major effect of the shadow, is it blocks our awareness and our conviction of our values.
Yes.
It's like literally, what are the values this country was founded on, and how are we behaving?
Right.
It's very, very much the shadows in the way of us being in conviction and living our values.
Okay, yes, and I'm going to move right along, and you'll see this coming up. We have a society that's based on fears and insecurities. We put a smiley face on it, but the bottom line is we make billions and billions of dollars from everybody else's fears and insecurities. A society that perpetuates injustice, a society that is fundamentally unstable, that just won't, we know it's going to fall, and we just hope it falls over there, okay? And a society that is immoral, a society that doesn't know where its values are, or knows very well where its values are. They keep them right over there, and we talk about them on Sundays. Okay. Actually, I shouldn't point.
Right.
I'll point that way. Right.
Okay, clear the room.
Okay, right.
Clear the room.
I'm writing that down.
Okay, right. And then you're gonna tell on me too, right? That was a generic direction. Okay. Wait, I was pointing to Portland. Okay, wait. Okay. We are immobilized. We're not able to do the things that we know what we have to do. You can't find anyone. I would challenge you to find someone in this society who says extra carbon in our atmosphere is a good idea, that we should be putting more carbon in our atmosphere. Everybody says we should reduce it, and everybody's putting it up there. And so we're immobilized by our shadow. And we are a society that is immensely suicidal and afraid to admit, or afraid to connect with that aspect of ourselves. Okay. I have another question. Shoot. I can't ask this as a question, we don't have time, so I'm gonna say, what keeps the shadow in place? Well, let me share this with you. The principal aspect that keeps shadows in place is denial. Denial that the shadow even exists. We don't recognize that this is something that, remember, years ago, President Carter tried to introduce a national conversation around a malaise in America, like we're drifting, we don't know where we're going. And that cost him his presidency, because Ronald Reagan said, we know where we're going, it's morning in America, we're great, we're number one, and we don't have to examine any of the stuff that Carter came up with, and all that stuff is still there. So it's like this alligator that's clamped onto our butt, and we're saying, wow, why is it hard to sit down? So denial.
Because of fear of what lurks behind it.
Okay. Let go of the imagery.
Don't think of the Statue of Liberty.
Right. So denial that the shadow exists, fearing what lurks behind it. Again, Reverend Noel saying we are afraid of what lurks behind our shadow. Attachment to a story that requires the shadow. Now this is really heavy. We're going to keep coming back to this week after week. What is the nature of the story that requires the shadow? Eliminating the shadow may invalidate your story. Okay? So if I say that violence is a part of human nature, and then I am showing that there are lots and lots of people and lots of societies that deal with issues in a way that is not violent, then what happens to my story? And so what I have to start doing is recognizing where my story may require the shadow. An inability to admit that you were wrong, or that we as a society were wrong, and an inability to apologize or to seek forgiveness, to say, I screwed up, we screwed up, please forgive us, and then let that shift our energy around.
And we've seen models of that.
Yep.
I mean, there are amazing models in the world
Yep.
that have demonstrated that.
Yep.
We've done it, but it's been.
And we tend to denigrate those models, like, oh, that's those people over there. That wasn't really an issue for them, you know. There was a mass shooting among the Amish. This was some years ago. Somebody went into the Amish community and said, well, you know, it gives us an opportunity to express and practice our forgiveness. You know, and the rest of America goes, what? Oh, that's them. They wear those funny clothes. Accepting your shadow. The thing that keeps the shadow in place is when you accept your shadow as your identity, that I am my shadow. This is really difficult when you get the shadow at a very early age, you know, when when the shadow's been handed down to you as an early aspect of your culture. And in this session, we'll be talking about deep identity at a later point in time. When you have an inability to face who you've been, you may also have an inability to face who you will become if you give up the shadow. An inability to face the loss of community, even if that community is a negative community. To get to where I am today, I've had to examine and let go of lots and lots of behavior. And in order to do that, I had to let go of lots and lots of community. And it's hard each time. It gets easier. But yeah, it's kind of like, who am I if I don't have this group of people telling me who I am? And then fear of the unknown. We don't know what's going to happen, so we are afraid to take a step. So, okay, and it's amazing how when groups of people come here, time speeds up. So I had this really well timed, and now it's not well timed. So let's switch gears into the practical aspects of the 8 weeks of releasing the shadow, engaging the light. This will be for those of you who have signed up or will sign up or want to sign up. You will have an option to register for Thursdays. So those of you who are coming on Thursdays, we were starting next week, this time, in this place. Or you have the opportunity to sign up for Mondays in Portland with Open Spirit in East Portland on Division Street. And a couple of people have indicated that that's their first choice because they're close by there. Or you have the ability to sign up next door at NTCSL on Tuesdays. So you've got Thursday coming up, 2nd of October. Then the next session will be Monday, 6th of October at Open Spirit. Then the next session will be Tuesday, the 7th of October at NTCSL. And that is making the assumption that we have a full house. And by a full house, each session needs to have at least 12 people in it. 12 people is a nice size group. The group energy is easier to maintain. If 1 or 2 people aren't there, it doesn't drop below an energetic minimum. I've got a roof on these also, so when you start getting to about 25, and probably less than that in this space, when you start getting around 25, it's going to feel too crowded. Sometimes we break into small groups, and if we have 12 people here, we can do that. You have 25 people in here, and then we'll be grouping outside. If you are coming on Thursday, or if you're coming on Monday, or if you're coming on Tuesday, and for a given week, you can't make the Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, you can come to another session, because we're going to be covering the same material at each one of the 3 sessions. If you just want a refresher, like that didn't take, you're welcome to attend 2 in a week. But I would ask you to make a commitment to a particular, like just don't go shopping. You know, like if you're coming to Thursdays, make a commitment to Thursdays. And if you can't make it, and I've already had a couple of people say, I can't make this one, I can't make that one, fine, just go to one of the other ones. If we don't have a full house, on either Monday or Tuesday or Thursday, we may abandon that day. I won't know how things are sitting with Open Spirit until I speak to their group on this coming Sunday. So we only got a couple of people. The two people who have signed up for Open Spirit actually signed up over here on Sunday. So I'm going to speak at Open Spirit on Sunday, and we'll see how many people sign up. The cost of signing up, for those of you who are, and I think everybody here is associated either with NTCSL or Unity of West Lynn or Open Spirit or the Vancouver UUs, then your fee is $250 for the full Monty and that while we're meeting 2 hours in a week, you do have homework to do, and you can do that homework over the course of an entire week. And if you're signed up on the full level, you will get the full benefit of doing all the homework assignments, etc. If you are veterans and you know you want to come to all 8 sessions, that's going to be $100, and that comes out to, I think, a reasonable amount of money per session. If you don't know you're coming to all 8 sessions, I'm going to have another amount that I would suggest that you give that will be that will encourage you to come to all 8 sessions. So you will have energy work that I will ask you to do for at least these 8 weeks, if not, as some of the veterans continue to do the energy work. But I'm going to ask you to do that very seriously for these 8 weeks. You also are going to have some fairly standard assignments to do, and that will be your contribution to the next week, etc. Issues to think about, things to do, etc. This came up last time, and I would suggest, okay, 2 things came up. Number 1, we will create an altar to start each session. And in the creation of the altar, I would ask everyone to bring an object that you find sacred to ground your energy in the room and ground your energy on the altar. You get it back at the end of each session. So it can be something that's very holding of energy for you. There several times people, I ask, unlike this situation, I ask people not to bring food into the session because we'll be doing meditations and chantings and stuff like that. We do take breaks, so you can kind of go in there, but don't bring it back in here. And if there is interest, I can make sure that this space is open if you care to come in early and have dinner. Like people we bring their dinner in and people can talk over dinner, etc. The only thing I ask is that at 6:59, dinner is over, dishes are washed, put away, you're ready to rock and roll in here, or wherever we will be, and not carrying that over. Okay, what am I forgetting? Yeah.
There is no punishment for being late, except we're going, you notice time can get out of control. It's really important that everybody be here or at the location and ready to start.
I thank you. I am very, very serious about that. The thing is, and the veterans will tell you, 2 hours goes like that, and if we're gonna really get maximum benefit, you know, we don't kind of look around at 7 o'clock and see who's here, we just start. And encourage you to be here 5 minutes early. Y'all did a pretty good job today. I was happy about that. So, yeah.
I thought, because I feel this way, I wouldn't have been able to attend if I couldn't make weekly payments.
We will talk about payments in 1 second, and we may be ready to go to that right now, okay? Any other questions or comments or thoughts about this? Yes?
I'm not sure that it belongs right in this place, but I'm interested to hear a little bit more about what the end goal is, what you hope for people to be walking out at the end of the 8 weeks.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions or comments or thoughts around these, kind of the practical aspects of this? Okay, I'm going to take yours first because the payment thing will take a bit. The two, maybe 15, but two that I'm thinking of right now, goals of this, is that on the one hand, people who really are holding a different energy, that you see that when you are perceiving our world, that you can say, oh, I'm seeing these things in a really different way, a different light. I have another way of processing our world and our reality, and I have another way of acting in that world, and not out of fear, not out of desperation, and not pointing the finger that those people over there are the problem, okay? That you can engage in the world in a different way. Does that make sense? Something came up during the lead-in to the Iraq War, when before Bush had actually launched the invasion. There's a group of people in this country that was they're trying to get people together to petition the Pope to tell Bush not to start the invasion. Now, how much power do you think the Pope has over George Bush? You're shaking your head, so you're saying it's less than 90% power over him, like a lot less. Like maybe. Like maybe. No, I'm sorry. No!
Oh.
Not even Catholic. And so that's called an act of desperation. And we do things out of desperation. If I can read a quote from my favorite author. Remember where it is. Where's my quote? And this book has an afterword in it, so. Okay. New times and new issues call for a new direction. Let us honor the tremendous gains of the past, take responsibility for the errors of the past, but look forward to the challenges that lie ahead. A few brave souls, that's not the quote that I wanted.
Keep going.
This is the problem, I think. Actually, I should finish it. A few brave souls may venture a protest. There's nothing I can do about the Middle East or pollution or why the price of everything is so high. I'm just one person. What power does one person have to change the world? The answer is easy. The power of compassion. When military might has rusted, when temporal fame has vanished, when all worldly powers have come to an end, the true power of compassion can be felt. Great cities turn to dust. Beauty fades. The strong become weak and feeble, but the compassionate truly will inherit the earth. What can the compassionate do to correct our modern day problems? Everything. Compassion is the light which drives out the darkness. Compassion wipes away the fears, making space for solutions to come forth. It is fear that makes us want to retreat. It is compassion that encourages us to expand, to realize that there is no separation between us and our problems or our solutions. Fear, egotism, and arrogance cause us to ignore the pain and suffering of others. Learning compassion, that ultimately I am you, will provide the energy for the profound societal shift necessary for our salvation. Okay. And there's another quote in here that's more apt to what you were saying, but I actually happen to like that quote too. So one end goal is we get a different lens. We get a different point of view. The other end goal is we start building the critical mass that starts shifting the consciousness of our society from where we are now, gripped in shadows, to a world that is really difficult for us to imagine because we haven't experienced it. We've experienced little parts of it, but we haven't experienced the totality of a society that is beyond violence. The totality of a society that's beyond poverty, greed, and hoarding. The totality of a society that's beyond depression and despair. These are the things that get talked about next door on Sundays and Wednesdays, as Reverend Noel said, as individuals. We take that, it's time to take that now on a larger quest. So last thing I want to say about that. So at the end of 8 weeks, you're going to have a new way of looking at the world, and you're going to have steps toward a new society. And it will take another time period. More days, more weeks, more months, and probably a few more years. And then, 3 years, 5 years, we're going to look back and say, oh, we started a movement. And that movement has changed America and changed the world.
So at this point, it would be fair to say, I mean, it's like, at one point I learned helplessness down, we all accept
I'm sorry,
that.
say again.
Earlier, one of your questions, I put learned helplessness is one of the results of the shadow.
Mm-hmm.
It's there, we all know it's there, it's like it's always been there, it's been there all of our lives, and we feel like we can't do anything about it.
Right.
So maybe shifting that perspective and opening up that possibility is that there is another way.
Yes. Yeah. Right, and to hold the vision of that other way and hold it so clearly that things shift. So we forget that we've already faced profound shifts in this society. We have, okay.
Sorry.
Did I answer your question?
You did.
Because I can keep going. Okay. So let's talk about payments. For those of you who signed the sheet that says you are registered and have made your payment, thank you. For those of you who signed the sheet and said you need to work out payment terms, we need to work those out. And they need to be worked out. We need to know where we're going with that before we start next week, which means if you can stay a little bit longer than 9 o'clock, we'll work it out right now. There's some so yes, if you want to divide the amount into 8 payments and paid weekly, that's fine with me. The payments though have to start before we start. And what I mean by that, it's really, really easy to come to the first session, say, whoa, this is really hard. You know, like, well, I know you're gonna ask me those kind of questions, or we're gonna do that stuff, and then just say, oh, you know, I'm dropping it. So I would like you to be invested before you come to the first session. For that means for those doing work study, you need to be working before Thursday, okay? For those who, like for example, and we'll talk, I'm talking in general, but you and I will talk specifically. I would ask for a couple of weeks up front, okay? So that if you just decide to not come, well, I'm sorry, we'll say that positive. That will encourage you, though you probably don't need the encouragement, that will encourage you to keep coming. In terms of work study, the work has to be something that is valuable to Commonwealth. I've had, in prior situations, people have said, oh, I'll sing a song for you, I'll give you one of my paintings, or what. It's like, huh? Not in those. And a prime example of what I'm talking about. And so, so we have to decide on something that Commonwealth, not Sharif needs, but Commonwealth needs, okay? And we have to do that before we get started. So does that answer those questions? And for those of you who need terms, let's just stay after 9 and we'll get in a corner and we'll chat about it. Yeah.
I'd just like to put a plug in for you in that, and having gone through this prior, that what I've learned, the amount of money, in the beginning sound like a lot, but it's insignificant. And also it's insignificant for what the people have done and is going to do. This is just the beginning. So I'd like to have you, those that have that thing about money, take a look at that, not in the beginning, but down the road, what's going to happen to you. And I think in the end, we won't put a guarantee, but I think in the end, it's well worth it. It's past well worth it. It's one of those things where you pay a little and get a lot. And I also think he deserves that. And he's asking very little for the time and money and the energy he's put in to be here now. And having worked with him for 5 or 6 years, he's put a lot of work to get here now. And I really, really want to encourage him, all those to at least go through those 8 weeks, you'll be changed. You can't go through those 8 weeks and not. You can try, but
right. No, actually, we should get right.
I don't know why you would do it.
Right. That's right.
I can't talk to it, so I just want to say that, having gone through it, and it really is good.
Well, thank you, number one.
I'll send you emails, but I have surgery next weekend, so I will support you in what I can to make sure that there's a group that's on the edge, either here or there.
Right.
I'll support you in that.
Cool.
So
Thank you.
After I recover.
Thank you. For some of you don't know me, and so when we're talking about money, we're not talking about money that's going to pay for the payments on the Maserati that's sitting out in the back lot, you know.
The green one?
The green Maserati, yes, right, exactly, right.
Yeah, in the garage.
That's right. It all is going back into the meta vision of how do we create a world that works for all beings. And we have a very significant goal here, and the goal is something that has always been there but has been triggered by Reverend David's announcement from the pulpit that he is taking this national. And there's a part of that, I'm sitting there saying, wow, that's cool. How do you do this? How do you take this national, you know? Because it really is associated with me. And so one of the things that I've got to do is develop train-the-trainer packages and develop this in such a way that others can lead the process. At that point, it's going to start getting really, really interesting, especially if the Centers for Spiritual Living, the Unity folks, and the Unitarian Universalists say we're going to use this as this is going to be our goal that gets us out of the trap of individualism and gets us into a larger sense of who we are. And Marna, you had your hand up, but can I read a quote?
Mm-hmm.
That's not mine. This is from Albert Einstein, and he says, a human being is part of the whole, called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. So he's saying, each one of us is the universe, but I'm the universe limited to this time and this space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings, as something separated from the rest, a kind of delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. Yeah, I think that 100 years from now, Einstein is not going to be known as a physicist. I think he's going to be known as one of our greatest philosophers.
Right.
And what we are doing here is freeing ourselves from the delusion of individuality and the development of our group consciousness, our consciousness of we as at least as powerful, and if not more powerful, than the consciousness of I.
We is a us without a them. We is an us without a them.
Yes, yeah. Now, it's easy to separate from some of the people that we see on television, you know, like the folks that are chopping people's heads off and the shooters and, you know, folks in Hollywood and, you know, other, yeah, but it's easy to separate from those who we're taught to separate from. What we have to do is start recognizing, no, that we really are one here. So, questions, comments, thoughts as we reach our, we're after our time, so I'm going to, no, here first. Okay.
Okay, I just wanted to share, part of me resists getting involved because it sounds way advanced beyond my experience. But thank goodness I've had other things that I've been involved in and followed my gut or the spirit or whatever you want to say.
Same thing.
And I found it greatly rewarding, and I know what's behind that is the fear of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought I'd share that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you sharing that, and this is a bit, I won't say fearful, but I keep like, how's this going to work? I don't, you know, I don't know what the next step is. But something that comes from the Bhagavad Gita, and that is resist what resists in you. And then the next line is become yourself. So that's what we shall do. In honor of the fact that it's after 9 o'clock, I'm going to call the question here. There's a prayer and affirmation that we have done that I'm not going to do this time because it's after 9 o'clock.
I'll have to come next week.
That's right, you have to come next week. And it is something that is very, well, I find it uplifting, and I think all of us have. And whether it is here next Thursday or at Open Spirit, I'm sorry, how many of you would be committing to here? How many of you would be committing to next door?
Tuesdays?
Tuesdays?
Yeah.
Okay. And how many of you are committing to Open Spirit? Okay. And we do have 2 people who registered, but they're not here. And how many of you just kind of don't know right now and you're bouncing between here and next door? Okay. Okay.
And Sharif, if I could just say, because this occurred to me a little bit earlier, that if for some reason, what you need to do is combine groups. I mean, you said that if one night doesn't fill, that night may have to be abandoned. But, I mean, even though I'm signing up for Thursday here,
Right.
And my personal reason for that is that I'd kind of like to experience learning, opening, and expanding in a different space.
Right.
I'm certainly willing to move to Tuesday to be part of the
I'm
group.
gonna play with this a little more as we see what our how our numbers go.
Yeah.
This would be a good sized group for this space here. If it's a lot more, then we gotta do the cell division. If it's not this many, then we need to do something else.
Yeah.
And the last 2 times, we had people signing up at the last minute, you know.
Well, sometimes.
Welcome to my life, you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think they hear the enthusiasm of the people who have decided to sign up,
Right, yes,
and then they cut.
yeah, yeah. So, so I would encourage you though, to, if you've got folks who you think would, now that you have a better idea of what's going on, if you have folks that you think would benefit from this, send them, forward them the emails, forward them the newsletter, forward them the flyer, and I'll send all of you the flyer tomorrow, or maybe tonight. And you can, and then you say, come on out. So, yes.
Yeah, I have a vision of the outcome of this process. Within our field of vision, the only thing we know of that doesn't cast its own shadow is the sun. The outcome is to be the light.
Indeed. And to understand what that means. I know a lot of folks who say, I am the light, they do all the affirmations, etc., and they're hanging on to a shitload of shadow. And they don't look at it, and they don't know. Okay, so one really quick story. So some of y'all have heard this before, but I was invited to do a talk at a church, and here in Portland, and I didn't quite know where the church was. This is back in the old days. I'm looking at a paper map. So I'm driving. A little slower than the speed limit. And I could see there's someone behind me, like on my bumper, wanting to pass me. And so I'm looking at addresses and things like that. And so the road gets wide enough for this person to zoom around. And as she is passing me, she gives me the look. The look that says, "You jerk, you're slowing me down." And she zooms on ahead, So I don't think anything about it, so I keep going. I find the church, pull into the parking lot. I get out, and there is an official greeter for me at the door. This person that gave me the look. And she was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry for looking at you like that." But I was late to greet you. Okay, and so we are one. You simply don't get away from that.
Yeah.
And I thought about her today when a similar thing happened in traffic coming down 43, and somebody zooms around me. But they didn't give me the look. It was just kind of like, I'm really, I need, almost apologetic. I'm in a hurry. You know? So maybe the word is spread, I don't know. So thank you, and I look forward to connecting with you in our programs.